How do you know that they're the one?
Ooh, come on, dude. That's the ultimate question,
Yeah.
right? Ultimately, it comes down to you both, right? Is there true, character chemistry between you both? Not just chemistry, and this adds another thing, right? The whole kind of spark. Do I feel a spark with this person? I met them, but I didn't feel a spark. You see, but the thing is, that doesn't mean anything.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rohan Plus One show. I'm your host, Rohan, and for today's episode, my plus one is the love doctor, the one, the only Amit Sodha. Hello, how are you?
It's ironic that you call this plus one because obviously that's what people say, right?
Yeah,
the plus one.
plus
I love
one.
it. Is that where that came from?
No, I just thought of it in my head, to be honest with you. I was just going through a list of names, and then that just came up. And yeah, I think it was the one that kind of I thought was like the best one.
You're manifesting your plus one.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that just yet.
You never know, man. They
Yeah.
could be here with you.
I know, yeah. Well, let's see. So, who is Amit Sodha?
That's a really good question. Now, the question is, how far do you want me to go back?
I guess I'll let you decide on.
All right, cool.
one.
So I'll give a brief overview of who Amit Sodha is right now, and then I'll do the kind of a slightly longer of how I got to be Amit Sodha. So as it is currently is right now, my main profession is that I am an expert dating coach. So this element of my life I've been working on for 15 years. And it's an area that I feel quite passionate about because for me, it was an area I struggle with. So getting dates, getting along with the opposite sex, creating romantic attraction was a big puzzle. It was a struggle. And obviously, as everyone knows, it can be quite a painful area of life when you face a lot of rejection. So I'd already been a coach for about 15 years prior to that as well. So 31 years in total now. But the thing I couldn't get my head around was how to figure out this attraction thing. So taking a step back, I was a little bit of a black sheep of the family as well. So we grew up in Wales, and where we lived in Wales, there was no sort of very few brown faces. It was always, it's an all white culture where we were, even in school. So you saw on my blog, there's, a picture of my class and there's one brown face there, which is me. In an environment like that, you see, I don't hold a grudge against anyone. There was a lot of racial slurs. There was the N word, there was the P word. It was, it was all sorts, but just something in that was a blessing because it made me figure out a way to make friends, to connect with people, to, develop a rapport with people. So that kind of skill came from a young age. However, there were periods I went through where I went through severe isolation as well, because I went through a very deep spiritual phase. From the age of 15, I became what, Jay Shetty says, I was a monk, and I guess that's exactly what I was. I was a monk for many, many years. I was waking up at 4 a.m. I even stayed at, our various places of meditation centers, etc. And so I was very different to what kids and young adults were doing at the age of 15. They're all getting to know themselves, partying, potentially having sex, potentially drinking, or experiencing now the start of their adult life. Whereas me, I was going through a phase where I was living a kind of like a sadhu lifestyle, not drinking, abstinent, from sex and all that kind of stuff as well. But that was a lifestyle I chose. But I went very, very deep spiritually. And then when you're in that state and you see the world, you're kind of like, something doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I belong in this world because everyone else is doing something else. And here's me, I'm doing this. And so it took a long time for me to sort of reconcile that spiritual side of me and being able to connect with people outside as well. So it was a long, long journey. I mean, you saw it on my blog. There was a period of time, like in my 18th birthday, I spent my 18th birthday by myself. I took myself go-karting as a gift to myself for my 18th birthday. But anyway, so I went through a few different ups and downs, highs and lows in life. I went through a period where I tried to take my own life and, had to eventually work my way through that. And then another part of this was also is that when I was in this spiritual phase, I wasn't very astute. I wasn't a very studious young man. So I kind of gave up on education. I left school with 1 GCSE. So I was also struggling with this idea of, okay, what do I do? Where do I fit in? And what I wanted to do was go into a media side of the world. I wanted to, get into acting and things like that. My spiritual teacher said, no. Said, get an office job. And that's what your life is going to be. So I got the first office job I could possibly find. And, that was what set me up, kind of for the rest of my life. But I was just doing something to pay the bills more than it was to actually enjoy it. So only later on in life, I decided, okay, no, I'm actually going to start to follow things that I love. So, in the early 2000s, I started blogging, which is still going. It's, going to be in its 17th year, I think, wow. 18th year in December, 18 in December. Then came the more commercial coaching. And then in 2008, as well as, I'd already got into radio, but I also decided, because I was coaching someone who wanted to become a stand-up comedian, and I was kind of helping him a little bit on his journey. He said to me just one day out of the blue, he goes, do you want to do it with me? Like a charity comedy gig. And I was like, me not thinking before I engaged my brain was like, yeah, sure, let's do it right now. Well, what could possibly go wrong, right? And the thing is, he's a natural born comedian. He's a bit like, I would say a very Russell Peters type of character, right? He's a natural born. I'm not that funny. But we decided, okay, sod it, let's do it. So not only did I go through a pretty tough time as well, because my sister just passed away from cancer, but I thought, well, if anything I've learned from this is that life is short. So let's embrace it. Let's go do it. Let's go have some fun. And we did it. And, it took me a while to get into the whole stand-up comedy thing. And at the same time as well, I was just getting into this idea, this mindset of, okay, how do I connect with people and women through dating? So I started to learn the subject really intensely. Like I would read every book on the subject. I would listen to any audio information I could find, videos, articles, whatever I could absorb about dating, relationships. I literally, devoured it. And after a short period of time, I started to get good at it, and I started to learn, and I realized actually there's a bit of a science to this, and it isn't that complex, but unfortunately our mammalian brains make it quite more difficult than it needs to be. So just fast forward a little bit to 2012, I met someone who became my fiance at the time, but again, went through a bit of a very big high and low with my mum passing away, and she passed away on my dad's 75th birthday. And shortly after that, about 7 months after that as well, my fiance and I then split up as well, because then I lost also my mum's brother. He'd passed away shortly after my mum went. And, it was just one domino after another. And I wasn't in the right frame of mind. And she was a lot younger than me. She was 10 years younger than me. And I think for her, she'd never lost anyone close to her. So she didn't understand what was going through. So that ended, and then in 2015 I kind of got back out there, early 2015, so about May time, and it took me about 3 months to get into my full stride. But at that time I was dating easily 3-4 women a week, and that's not to brag or anything, that's just to say, look, this is possible for anyone. And later on that year, met my lovely wife, and a year later I proposed, and a year after that we got married. So we've been together 8 years. We just had our 8-year anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No worries. I just want to touch upon, you've said about, taking your own life, your sister passing away, your mum passing away, like all these hurdles in your life. How did you keep going?
And you ask a really good question for a number of reasons, and not just the standard stuff, because as I mentioned before, I'm a bit of a black sheep of my family as well. So the way normal people do things, our family didn't do it, and I certainly didn't do it that way. So as much as it was really difficult in 2008 when my sister passed, what I saw was a real blessing in many ways, because of course it was horrendous, it was hard, it was tough. But what I learned in that moment, because she was 38, she would have been 39 a week later. I was 31 at the time. What I learned was that it just goes to show and proves how short life is. And forget dating, that's a lesson that we need in any area of life. Like just today, I got a WhatsApp from a friend who's lost 5, family members in 3 months. 5th funeral in 3 months he's going to. And I kind of said the same to him, for me, obviously I feel for you, bro. This is a horrible thing to go through in you and your family. But let that serve as a reminder that this is what, look, any of us could go at any time. But what are we going to take away from that? And that is it's not about how long we live, in my opinion. It's about how we live, how we leave a legacy, how we impact people, how we have can really, probably a loose phrase, but, add value to people's lives and do something really special and significant. And so it was a very tough time when she passed. But for me, I saw where a lot of people will just see catastrophe. They'll see this is horrible and don't know how I'm going to get through this and it's too painful. I saw opportunity. I saw opportunity to grow. And everything I've ever been through has been, all of the challenges I see as opportunities to grow. And, we live in an age where obviously mental health is such a big topic. But the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, why is mental health not improving? Why is it not getting better? Why is there seem to be more of these challenges that people are experiencing? And I think the answers are actually relatively simple. I think we spend too much time in our head. And we live in this kind of double entendre culture. Yes, we're supposed to be more mindful, but then a lot of people are just spending too much time in their head and not actually just doing. What you must have heard of The Flow, right? The book The Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And this book is all about kind of, finding out about the habits of the happiest people in the world and what they do. And, finding out these people who live in certain cultures and they're very, very kind of just enjoy what they do. And what the author discovered, and he phrased and coined the phrase as this, the flow, is that people who, are really totally and 100% immersed in a task, they're the ones who are kind of the happiest. I don't know about you, but when I'm doing social media and editing a video, for example, I know I'm 100% immersed in that task. I like it. I love creative things. When I'm coaching people, I'm usually 100% immersed in that task. So I'm not, at those moments, I'm not thinking about my own mental health. I'm thinking about, how do I serve other people? How do I put something out that's going to give value to the world? So this is one of the things, the big things that's missing, is teaching people to truly get in the flow through action. Yes, being mindful, being still is as important, but what's missing is the other element, and that is immersing ourselves into something. So that is one of the things that really helped me get through was, and it's not about burying your head. It's not trying to ignore your feelings or anything like that, but no, it's finding what you love and really saturating yourself in it. And that will go pay dividends later on into helping you then cope and deal with the stuff you're going through.
I understand. And also, like, if anyone is going through a hard time in their life, like, I feel like, just remember, right, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of quotes you hear about, it never gets any easier, but you just learn to deal with it and learn to cope with it. Your coping strategies change over time. And that's true to a certain degree, right? It's not like I don't ever think about my mum and my sister. And, just on a totally different note, right? I'm the youngest in my family. So I was talking to one of my brothers recently who's also suffers from many mental health challenges. And I said to him, when he was talking to me one day, I kind of got a little bit annoyed. Because I said to him, I don't think you understand from my point of view what challenges I'm going to face in the future. So I'm going to outlive probably most of you, most likely, other things being equal. So I'll be the last of our family around. So in the same way that you've got me to care for you right now, I'm not going to have anyone to care for me. I've got to find a way to be self-reliant. Of course, I have my wife. We don't know what's going to happen. I hope in some way that I outlive her so that she doesn't have to be without me. Okay. Make of that what you will to anyone else out there. But I think to myself that if and when that time comes, guess who's going to have to be self-reliant? It's going to have to be me. And so that thought reminds me to be strong, work on my mind, my body, my spirit, so that when that time comes, if I am ever alone in this world, that I am able to adapt in some way, shape or form, and then, still survive and even thrive and even be in a happy place, enjoy life, still do wonderful things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I know, if someone, talking about like self-love, but that's probably what comes first before finding a partner, right? Like, the ability to love yourself first before you find someone. Because if you don't love yourself, like, how are you going to put like love or, like passion or, into a relationship?
Yeah, there's some truth in that, and there's some things we need to really clarify, because I think there's pieces to that that's missing. So, you probably heard it, right? You probably heard the kind of like the modern day cliches, love yourself as you are. No. Don't love yourself as you are. Love yourself for who you are able to become. When you are able to move forward, then love yourself. But also you've got to be prepared to be equally your own best coach. When you are not moving forward, when you are not progressing, to try and love yourself in that form, like, gentle love, it's not going to get you anywhere. You've got to be the disciplinarian. That form of love needs to be come into play, like from a parent, from a coach, from someone else. You need to be able to say to yourself, no, that is not good enough. I need to step up. I need to grow. I need to develop myself. I need to become more than I am right now. Then you can love that person. But the form of love that needs to come into play when you're stagnant, not doing what you need to be doing, or not doing what you know you could be doing or capable or potential of doing, the form of love needs to be a disciplinarian, needs to be the motivator, needs to be the coach, needs to be the inspirer, needs to be the version of you that, you know, someone, if your best friend was in a rut, what would you do for them?
Okay.
How would you help them, right? You would say to them, like, you know, let's pick you up. Come on, I'll be there. I'll carry you. I'll help you to get you to the point you need to be. You need to be able to do that to yourself. So it's the form of self-love. Like, you know, it's not like just, you know, a self-cuddle. Yeah. You're just sitting there going, I love me. I love me. No, that's not how it works. It comes in many forms, many guises. So yes, you've got to love yourself, but you've got to love yourself in another way, like this other way. So let's talk the dating aspect now, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Because right, let's get to the juicy down and dirty, right? So some of the stuff I see on a day-to-day basis, the stuff that, you know, that happens in my world, and I obviously get privy to a lot of information. So obviously I won't reveal personal details about people, but just some of the things I see. Let's start here, because I was talking about this. I did a video about this today, right? Now, you're single, right?
Yes.
Are you on dating apps or anything like that?
No, but like I've obviously had them in the past, but you know, not at the moment.
Cool, no problem at all, right? But when you've been swiping on dating apps, I assume that you've probably come across pictures where you're like, what is that, right? I mean, that's another form of self-love, like giving yourself the gift of at least putting out some good pictures. Whether you pay a professional to do it for you or you learn to do it yourself. Listen, right? We've got these gadgets in our pocket, which are, man, they're powerful in this day and age, right? You know, you could take pictures that are as good as, you know, DSLRs had 10 years ago, right? If not even better. But most people, like even today, I saw someone post a picture of themselves. You know, you could tell it was a selfie, standing in a mirror with probably shorts or almost look like boxer shorts and their socks on. And they put this in a public group, and I'm like, you know, like... I get there's probably a part of his mentality was thinking, let the woman see me as I am, at my best and my worst, right? And there's good logic in that, but you want to give yourself the best chance of attracting a mate, and a lot of that happens in the first split second, what they see. A lot of people then, what are they going to do? So as a woman, she's probably potentially going to swipe by, because she's like, what the hell is this picture, right? Do you know what I mean? Right? Come on, sort yourself out. So she's potentially going to swipe by. Whereas if you had a really nice picture, you put on a really nice outfit, you got someone to take a really nice picture and some good lighting or whatever, then there's a stronger chance that she's going to go, oh, he looks quite nice. Let's swipe right on him. So, you know, that's another form of self-love, is that you've got to put in the effort that needs to be done in all aspects of a profile. So not just the picture, but even then there's some secrets to a good ideal dating profile. It needs to have obviously a kick-ass picture. It's got to have a really good headline. And what do I mean by a headline? We live in a headline culture, right? So how does, you know, the news get your attention? When you're swiping on your phone or you see a headline, how does it get your attention? It's those first line, right? Those first 6 or 7 words that they've, you know, scientifically learned at this point to grab your attention, to cause your brain to go, whoa, I need to check this article. So you need to do the same. So when I was dating, for example, my headline was, ladies, if you like Chewbacca, then I'm your man. I'm big, tall, hairy, and I do the best impression of him that you'll see on our date, right? That was something, it was something like that. But it made people laugh, and people would message me just based on that. They'd be like, I've got to see this. Or they'll be like, oh, cool. You know, like, oh, you're tall, right? So that's good to know. Like, just something out of that will grab their attention. And it would set the expectations that women would know, look, I'm not a guy with a 6-pack. It's fine. If you want a 6-pack, then you can already swipe by, because then I'm not for you. They already knew that, you know, I was probably a bit of more of a cuddly character than a, you know, solid character. That's fine, right? And it showed my playful side. So that's 2 things: picture, headline. Third thing is you need to obviously then kind of talk about you. Now, I bet, you know, when you were dating on a dating app, how many profiles did you swipe by that just all look the same?
lots. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Most
lots.
people are just writing the same
There's a
thing,
lot.
right? I'm a foodie. I like Netflix. I like traveling. I like this.
IG underscore something.
Yeah. I like this. I like that. And everyone just summarizing themselves in a list. I'm like, that's not who you are. Tell me a story. Pick one of those things and tell me a story. So I have an example that I sent to my WhatsApp group. And mine is something like, my favorite adventure of 2023 has been going to Egypt, and where I went snorkeling, and you'll never guess what happened. But in order to find out, message me. So, I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's something like that. So that was a bit of a short version, but I'm telling a story about something very specific, and I'm leaving a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm enticing them into to want to connect with me, because obviously in the dating world, it's usually the man who has to make the effort and reach out. So this is doing some of the work to get them to want to okay, I've got to know what happened now. Fourth thing is what I'm looking for. Again, I'm not going to list. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm looking for a woman who's got a good sense of humor, she can cook, blah, 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 blah.
Mate Rockley.
Yeah, listing these things. Oh, I really want a spiritual partner where we can, meditate to get... No, again, that's not real. That's not real. That's just a list, and that doesn't mean anything. But what does it really mean to look like to have a partner? Like, what would you imagine you both doing? Like, I'll give you an example right now for me and my wife, right? I've always loved this idea of just a night in playing board games together. We love it. We play Bananagrams. I don't know if you've ever played it. It's a word game. It's a bit like Scrabble, but slightly different, a bit more fun, a bit more faster paced. When we were on holiday, every night we'd play. We loved it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was great fun. So it's one of those things that's an example of a specific thing. Like, if I meet a woman and she's as happy just having a chilled out evening indoors with me where we can easily play a game of Monopoly Deal or Bananagrams, then that is fantastic, brilliant. So I'm actually being specific now. Yeah, and then obviously I can be a bit more specific, give 2 or 3 examples of things that I like. I like a woman who's a bit outdoorsy or is up for a bit of adventure, for example. If you're someone who's brave enough to say climb Mount Snowdon with me, then definitely you're someone that I would like to get to know better. The last but not least, we've got to be really specific in, the conventional thing to say on social media right now is, what do you bring to the table, right? But actually, you've got to actually say what you bring to the table. Yeah. How are you going to be a good partner? And again, not listing, it's being specific. Like, when my profile was, active back in the day before I met my wife, he did say something like, I am different. But it was worded in such a way that obviously it stood out to my wife, and it was, more about, look, truly, this is who I am. And like, for example, so this is a really good example, because what's some of the biggest problems on dating apps right now? Pen paling each other, ghosting, all that kind of stuff. So my ending was something like, I promise I won't just become another pen pal. If you want someone who's actually going to pick up the phone to call you, who's actually going to arrange a date, we're actually going to go out and have some fun, then definitely swipe right. Because that's the kind of person you're going to get with me. And that's not going to just continue for the beginning. That's going to be a long-term thing, because that's who I am. I don't sit still. I move forward. So if you're looking for that kind of person, an alpha male who steps into his divine masculinity, then that's me. Then I'm the perfect match for you.
Oh, no.
So these are some of the specifics, right? And that effort, like, if I use this example, right? So we'll finish this question on this point. So if I were to say to you, you perfect job has landed in your inbox right now, and you've got till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to submit your CV, and it's updates, a little bit rubbish right now, and it's going to need a lot of work. How much time between now and tomorrow 9 a.m. would you spend on that CV?
I'd go home and work on it straight away.
Possibly all night, if you had to?
Pretty much, yeah. If I had, if it's the dream job.
Absolutely, right? And most people, I asked them, okay, so how long do you spend on your dating profile? What would you mean? 1 minute or 2 minutes? And I'm not taking the mickey out of anyone, but I'm just trying to make a point. Yeah. Well, I am taking the mickey out of a few people. No, but what a lot of people do is they'll just give their dating profile, or even just the date itself, is an afterthought. All they've done is they've mocked up something really quickly and they've put it out there, but they've not given it any thought. Like you'd spend all night doing your CV for a perfect job. Why wouldn't you spend a week or a month perfecting your profile? making sure you give yourself the best possible chance to meet someone. Why would you not do that and give yourself that gift? That is self-love. That is so healthy self-love and self-respect, to do that and give yourself that gift. Then, and the same goes to dating, preparing for a date beforehand. You know, what's the top 10 questions you're going to get asked on a date? Everyone knows, but no one ever prepares for it. What do you do? Where are you from? How many brothers and sisters you have? Where have you been on holidays? What music you into? What food you into? You know those questions are coming. So why not make it fun, entertaining, be prepared for them? That's self-love.
Yeah, like, or change it up a bit.
Yes. Yeah, you can. I used to have canned stories, canned jokes, but I would always change it up every day. So I didn't get bored either. I would say fun stuff or tell fun stories or make up jokes or whatever. I used to be a professional magician many years ago. So I sometimes used to take magic tricks. I'd take my juggling balls. I would set challenges. We'd just have fun. Every date would be different.
Yeah. No, I understand. And I feel like now with dating, how do you think social media's played a part, you know, in people's dating life? Because, you know, you can see there's so many people now, you know, that would do like stuff on social media.
Yeah, I like anything else, it's a tool. And it can be quite a powerful tool. You look at, there was a TikTok that went quite viral recently by a girl in America, Indian girl, I've forgotten her name now, I've probably got it saved somewhere, but she kind of put herself out there. She goes, I'm so-and-so, I'm this and this, and I live in this. I'm into Indian men, and I'm looking for an Indian man. So if you're, you know, if you think you're a suitable catch for me, then, you know, let me know. I mean, this video probably, last time I checked, you know, because I came across it twice, was probably 100,000 likes. So God knows how many messages this girl has had. But you can see it can be a tool, right? So in the initial stages, we're talking about this stage, right? So finding someone, it can be a tool like anything else. In the same way, if you don't use LinkedIn well to find a job, you can easily also use, you could be the bad workman who can blame their tools, but actually it's a powerful tool in itself. Then let's look a little bit step further into relationships when you get into dating, and this idea of, you know, do people have too many options in this day and age? Are people always thinking they can get something better? And are they seeing on social media, because they're seeing a lot of these perfected images and, you know, beautiful people out there, not just women, but men too. Are people's standards changed? And is it just a beauty standard? Is it just a physical thing? You know, is a lot of this happening? And I would say to a certain degree, definitely it's had an impact. What is quite apparent is this, what's that saying by Roosevelt? Comparison is the thief of joy. And that can happen. If you're, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll put the happy sides on social media. So even if now as a, you know, couple, I may see another couple and they're doing really well, I'm thinking, damn, me and my wife, we need to be a better couple than them, right? I could do that as well. Or I could just think, why do I care? Why do I have to prove to everyone what our relationship is? So yes, if you're someone who is prone to that, if you're someone who is potentially going to be susceptible to that, perhaps you need to manicure your feed, make sure you're seeing good, healthy, positive stuff. I mean, yes, you've got, you know, a dose of content that isn't just people to compare to and, you know, other relationships, what's happening with other people, because obviously then that can, for some people, give them anxiety, cause them problems, makes them think, you know, maybe, you know, oh, this girl's got this, you know, or this person, should I say, no, it's not just men, women or men, but oh, this person, their partner's doing this for them. Why are you not doing that for me? Because I saw this on social media. This other person was talking that their partner does this for them. So why are you not doing that for me? Do you know what I mean? Right? You could easily go down that rabbit hole, and that's never ending. So again, part of that is the self-love aspect. Can you be happy and content and then grow together, develop it and flourish into something beautiful? So for me, to answer your question, social media and dating apps are just a tool, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to rely on them and they're the only forms. Let's face it, right? A lot of people are zoomed out, you know, for over lockdown. And, you know, I don't know any one person right now who isn't totally annoyed and had enough of dating apps. Everyone I come across, no one's actually ever come to me and said, oh my God, I love this dating app. No. Who actually says that right now? No one. So what's a big thing right now? And obviously this led to me creating the Connect Asian brand, right? Which is trying to connect people in fun ways. You know, like this Friday, for example, we've got our murder mystery event and an after party as well. So my thing has always been, my niche has always been, how can we do things a bit differently to what everyone else does? You know, again, you know, you see a lot of the same stuff again and again. It's been going on for years, like padlock parties and speed dates. And speed dates are great and they're fine. But again, you know, when I do a speed date, it's got a big twist to it. And I try and make things different. So we like, you know, I do activity-based stuff. I don't know if you've ever been to, like, say, for example, sixes, cricket. Yeah, done that. So I've done that as a singles event. We've done axe throwing. We've done our own speed date salsa. This weekend's a murder mystery. I did a murder mystery in Leicester recently. So, because at the end of the day, what happens is, right, when you want to get to know someone, what do most people do? They meet and they ask, right, so, you know, what do you do? Where are you from? You know, how many kids do you want? You know, you think, do you have kids? You know, are you a meat eater? Are you a vegetarian? No, like the most superficial, the most superficial things take precedence. You know, they start thinking about, I need to match on this person on every level, but not on their character. Everyone's looking at chemistry, but no one's looking at character. Character comes first. Are they a good person? Don't worry about all the rest of the stuff. You need to actually find out how to get to know that person first. And that is what is most important. If you can't find a way or don't understand how to get to know them and not their stats, how much they earn, what do they do, what GCSE, how far did they... I'm a high school dropout. That's me, right? You know, I'm sorry if anyone's offended by that, thinks I'm some low life, but that was me. Unfortunately, that wasn't my life. I had to find another route and carve out my own path, and that's exactly what I did. Your original question, yes, social media has had various impacts, one of which being the comparison element, and that's just one of many. And obviously even dating apps, you know, what people feel, and I don't think it's as big as a problem as they think, but what people feel is that everyone's swiping to look for the next best thing. And I don't feel that's quite it. I think people just don't know how to find the best thing in the person they're speaking to, because they're ill-equipped to do that, and they think they could just do that by swiping to the next person, which doesn't work, and it's never going to happen.
It's probably better, instead of like using dating apps, I guess, to go out and explore, right? Like just meet people and then see where that kind of takes, like go to events like yours as well, right?
Yeah. And you know, like I think even with a dating app, I had a rule when I was dating, right? 15-minute rule. I had to get their number. So even when I was dating, like dating apps were around, because I think Tinder first came out in 2012, and I was back out there on Tinder in 2014, right? Or 15 it was. And there was other ones like Plenty of Fish and others, right? So I was well into the dating world. And it's very easy to just get caught up and try and get to know someone and, you know, on an app and message back and forth. But that is the fastest way for that relationship to flop. So I had a rule. I had to get their number within 15 minutes. Because I wanted to speak to them so they could really get to see who I was and I could get to see who they were. Again, character over all the other superficial stuff. I wanted to know were they a good human being. Most people I spoke to were wonderful human beings. And I had dates with many of them. And there was many possibilities there. When I was, you know, when I started dating my wife, I was, you know, dating good 4 or 5 women at the same time. And why I chose my wife, we can get into that a little bit later, but was because she demonstrated to me she was a very special, unique, like one of a kind human being, which I thought, okay, great, this is the person I want to be with. So yeah, so getting out there is so important. But you know, if you get stuck by swiping and just trying to get them to know them as a pen pal messaging, you're always going to fail. It's the worst way to get to know someone. So you've got to find a way to connect deeper as quickly as possible. My rule for guys is simple. Get the number within 15 minutes. After you've got the number, get them on the phone as quickly as possible and have a conversation with them for about an hour, maximum. After you've had a conversation for an hour, if you've decided that they're a good person, you'd like to get to know them better, get them out on a date ASAP. And I mean ASAP, like, you know, cancel your plans, make them feel like that they need to cancel their plans to get to know you. Get them out on a date as quick as possible as well.
Okay, and what are some dating mistakes people make? You know, like when they go on that first date, what's some mistakes people make?
So it depends on how deep you want to go psychologically. So we've already discussed one, which is obviously the kind of asking the boring, mundane questions. And that still happens. It's amazing how much that still happens, right? You know, what do you do? Where are you from? You know, your family history, blah, 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 blah.
Job, degree.
Exactly, all that kind of stuff. And that's probably not the best way. But a lot of people, what they do, and here's like, so this is one example. What they do is they put themselves in the role of the chosen. So what I mean by that is they're basically, so they, I don't know if you know or have ever heard of attachment styles. So those people, they are anxious attach. They have an anxious attachment style, which means they're always putting in themselves and letting the other person choose. If I'm like, I wonder if they'll like me. I wonder if they want to have a date with me again. I wonder what they're thinking about me. So do you like me? You know, do you want to? You know? So they're always putting the other person in the position of power to choose them, or say no to them. And that's a massive thing. And obviously having an anxious attachment style is quite a common thing. About 80% of people out there have an anxious attachment style. About 20% are avoidant. And avoidant and anxious will always connect, because that's just the yin and yang of the situation. Is what you're always going to end up with, unless you're a secure attachment style person. So putting yourself in the position where you're letting the other person decide, are you for them or not, is always going to land you in, you know, a position where you're probably going to be rejected more times than not. What you've got to ask yourself, you need to, when you catch yourself having that thought, is say to yourself, actually, but do I like them? Do I want to see them again? Or am I just holding on to this because at the moment my choices are slim and, you know, I haven't had many dates, so maybe I need to be on my best behavior because this person might like me more and they will then want a second date. But of course that has the complete counterintuitive effect, has the complete opposite effect, and actually will kind of make them less desirable to the person. We're very spiritual people, so as in we are all spiritual, we are all more intuitive than most people realize. You will detect the energy. Like if a woman was very desperate with you, you would, even if she didn't directly say it, you would know it, right? Through her behaviors, through her energy, through everything. Even if it was very subtle, you would pick up on it. And so, you know, we do pick up on these things. And so you've got to be mindful about, okay, if I'm putting myself in the energy where I'm making them, you know, choose me, like I'm allowing them to be put them in the power position where they have to choose me, and I'm like, will they like me, will they not like me, blah, blah. Then you're always going to end up in a situation where you're always anxious in that relationship, thinking I need to do the right things. And you'll ask silly things like, when they go away or they ghost you, you'll ask silly things like, what did I do wrong? Maybe you did nothing wrong, maybe it was them. And you got to realize that. So that's a big thing at the moment as well. And obviously it's a massive thing at the moment because people are more concerned with anxiety and mental health, even more so. So we've got to find a way to self-soothe ourselves, to be able to flip the script in our head. And it isn't that hard. It literally isn't that hard. You can start off with actually having a piece of paper that you read before you go into that friggin' date. Simple. It is not that hard. You remember these things. You remind yourself of these things. Do not sit there thinking, you know, I wonder if they like me. You've got to flip the script and say, do I like them? Are they a good human being? Are they the kind of person I could imagine a potential future with? Getting to know them. So there's loads of things you can do to sort of like start getting to a point where you get a better outcome in dating.
Yeah, and I guess when you start dating someone, continuously, how do you kind of find out like they're the right person? How do you know that they're the one, essentially?
Ooh, come on, dude, that's the ultimate question, right?
Exactly. It's the main question.
That's like you asked probably the hardest question of all, right? Yeah. So it's like, how do you know someone is the right person? I mean, obviously the answer is individual to everyone, right? But you'll know by their behaviors, you know, simple things like, do they actually make an effort? You know, or are you always doing everything? Are you always the one who's always initiating the messages? Are you always the one who's trying to get them out or make plans or do things, or, you know, always being considerate to them, but the other person's not really making much of an effort? You know, that's probably one of the bigger telltale signs, among others, of course. But ultimately, it comes down to you both, right? Is there true character chemistry between you both? Not just chemistry, and, you know, this adds another thing, right? The whole kind of spark. Do I feel a spark with this person? I met them, but I didn't feel a spark. You see, but the thing is, that doesn't mean anything. Do you know how, right? So, Ryan, do you know how many couples I speak to over and over again? And these are couples I'm talking about, been together years, married, whatever, right? And I ask them this question. I say, did you feel a spark? And be honest, be really honest, like think really truthfully. Of course, you might have felt a spark after a few weeks, but be honest, in that first moment, did you feel a spark? And most of them are like, no. Actually, a lot of couples I speak to actually say the opposite. I actually didn't like them that much. So Case in point was at a friend's party, engagement party, met a couple there. I asked them this question. They'd met around the same time as me and my wife. They just had a baby. So I asked them the question. I said, you know, how did you guys meet? How did you connect? Well, she goes, you know, he took me out for a first date, but I wasn't that interested in him after that. So I was like, okay, so how did it get to a second date? She goes, well, he asked me out on a second date and my dad just happened to be out of the country and I was pretty hungry that day. So I just thought, sod it, I'll go on this date. And do you imagine if she'd said no, if she thought, no, I didn't feel a spark with this guy, she would be married to a guy that she's just had a baby with. So you can see that if your metric is that you want to feel a spark at the first date, you're going to fail 100% of the time, because a spark will burn out, or a spark will fizz out really quickly. Because the thing is, what happens is most people will rest on the laurels of that spark. But when that spark goes, they don't realize, no one's ever taught them this, that actually the connection needs effort, needs work. You have to work at it. It's not just something that happens for the rest of your relationship. You don't wake up for the next 80 years and feel a spark with your partner every single morning as you wake up and go, oh, I love you. No, it requires work. So for most people who feel a spark, those relationships generally don't last. They'll feel a spark after the second, third, fourth day or whatever. But when they think back to it, if you ask them loosely, they'll say, yeah, we felt a spark connection earlier, like on the first date. But actually they didn't. If you delve into it and you ask them truthfully, they didn't. So what you got to do is, even if you do feel a spark, doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work, but you need to then kind of just take a step back and just think, okay, cool. Right now, my chemicals are firing. I'm going crazy, like, because I really like this person. But that's the best time that you need a wingman or a wingwoman to remind you, no, okay, that's good. You may think they're hot, they're really good. But have you watched Married at First Sight recently at all, by any chance?
No.
So there's a couple in there, and they're the perfect example of this. There's a couple called Brad and Shona. So the concept of the show, if you don't know it,
Yeah.
proper Indian old school arranged marriage
Arranged
style
marriage.
that white people have decided to adopt, right, and try out for themselves. So there was a couple in this year series, Brad and Shona. They connected, they got on really well. They've like, you know, they got intimate really quickly, and they were the first couple, like after the first week when they got back from the honeymoon, they were already saying I love you, and all the other couples were like, it seems a little bit quick. And it's funny as well, because they showed the bits at the beginning where they both said before they met that we fall in love very quickly. So they met, you know, saying I love you after a week, and you know they're one of the first couples to drop out of the process, because they obviously had an intense chemistry and spark, but guess what? It died down. And also when the reality kicked in, they really learned about each other's personalities. They didn't know they had no coping strategies. They had no strategies at all for dealing with each other's personalities and whatnot. So that is one of the best examples I can provide recently of why when you feel a spark, don't trust it. You've got to take a step back and really get to know them first. And then you can make a decision whether that spark was something genuine or not.
Yeah, it's not like Bollywood films, right? When you see someone, it's like the music does not play in your head. You know.
Yeah. What's that? So, what was it from? Was it not Dilwale? Kuch Kuch Hota Hai Na? He's like, whatever it is, right?
Or like the weather changes, you know, when you feel like, oh yeah, I'm in love, and then it starts raining. It does not happen in real life.
Well, you know, even in Bollywood, they sometimes show that people don't like each other and then they fall in love. That's probably a bit more realistic. Yeah, a little bit more realistic. So yeah, so you get, you know, the instant connection is something to be aware of, but what you're really just looking out for in the other person is their ability to handle conflict. You know, I don't know if you know or you've read at all Jay Shetty's recent book, 8 Rules of Love, right? And he talks a little bit about this in there. I don't know who originated this concept. I don't know if it was him or someone else. But there's also love languages as well as fight languages. And you need to, like I've always said to everyone, that you only really know your partner after the first conflict. That usually takes place after about the 3-month 3-month mark. Some people it's quicker, some people it's longer. And they also called, you know, that early stage of the relationship, the honeymoon phase, before you go into the next phase. And I forgot what the second phase is, but I'll remember at some point. But anyway, so, and that transition of that phase usually happens after a fight. And you'll usually have your big first fight. And how that person opposite you handles that conflict will tell you a lot about that person, a lot. And then that will let you know if you're going to make it to the next stage, which is usually around about a year. And then obviously at a year, this is where the reality of the relationship really kicks in. And you get to see potentially who you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. And a lot of people at this point, again, a lot of relationships won't survive past that year mark because they, you know, haven't learned to understand their partner, their habits, their behaviors. They haven't been able to accept them. They, you know, how to handle their crazy, you know, my crazy. My wife handles my crazy pretty good, and I handle hers pretty well. So, you know, that's another second stage as well. So you get to know. But usually about what I would say is don't trust your feelings at the early stage of a relationship till you've had your first fight. Take your own feelings with a pinch of salt.
Okay. No, I understand that. So as you saw, you know, I put a thing on my Insta story about questions and dilemmas. So I do actually have a few.
Oh, great.
So I'm just going to get them up.
Brilliant. I love it. The harder the questions, the better.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know about how hard these are. But the first one I got, oh my God.
Are you allowed to say the name of the person?
No, I'm not going to expose them.
Okay, don't say the name.
No, I'm not going to expose them, but they do know who they are. So when I see them next time, actually.
Love it.
You know, yeah. So the first one literally goes, does her body count matter?
Oh, are we going there? Oh my God. What is this, the Fresh and Fit podcast or whatever podcast?
But yeah, that was a question.
No.
No.
I tell you what, I never asked my wife that question once. Yeah. All I know about my wife's history in terms of that, and that's all I wanted to know, was that she was in love once before. That's it. I never once asked my wife that question.
Yeah, and I guess when you're really with someone and, you know, you're spending time with them, I guess that thought wouldn't or shouldn't pop into your head, right?
Yeah, it's a shallow metric.
Yeah.
Now I know there's a lot of stuff that is out there. When you see things like the Fresh and Fit podcast, or you know, or that Lady Pearl, or you know, the whatever podcast, they'll often talk about this. That when a woman's body count reaches a certain amount, the chances of her getting divorced are higher. Now, to be honest, those stats are pretty loose at best. But what I will say is that it truly doesn't matter, and actually it can work in your favor. There, obviously, you'll face a number of challenges in any situation, regardless. So what challenges that you're going to face by asking that question really is just going to put more, you know, silly things in your head. Why?
Exactly.
What's the point in worrying about it? You know, my wife never asked me the question, you know, as well. And I appreciated that because, you know, I mean, but it doesn't matter, right? Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. And so, you know, I lost my V-plate quite late in life. You know, I didn't, you know, lose my V-plate till I was 25. And, you know, it was only after that I started having, you know, intimate relationships with women and stuff. And I only got really good at it after 2008. And so, but at the end of the day, she never asked me. I never asked her. And right now, we've been together 8 years, married for 6, and we're in a healthy relationship, and things are very strong right now. Yeah. And, you know, I'll just quickly say this as well, right? So lockdown came, me and my wife, you know, we suddenly stuck in the house together, right? And there was a part of me that thought, oh, sugar, right? We're going to be stuck in the house together. And actually, if anything, it brought us stronger together. Do you know what was our biggest challenge that ever happened to us? It was getting a dog.
Okay.
Because I can't be a parent. I can't have children, right? So our dog is the closest thing we have to being parents. So we have different doggy parenting styles. So there was a lot of conflict there, right? But it was quite interesting seeing us work through it and getting through that stage. And now, obviously, we love our little doggy to bits. He's the cutest, sweetest little thing. But it was I'm really glad we went through that because it was quite challenging at times. And I don't think we'd been tested that much until that point. We'd had challenges, but that was probably one of the bigger ones. So our parenting style was a big thing. So, but yeah, anyway, back to the original question. Body count? Nah, it doesn't matter. Ignore all of that, what you see on social media. It doesn't mean a thing. No, it's good. It's a good, relevant question. I mean, I'm glad he asked it.
I guess,
I'm glad they asked it. I don't know who it is, but yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, can someone really be friends with their ex?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely, man. I've got exes that I'm still friends with. And what I mean by that, right, as time has gone by, when you get married, those relationships will fade over time anyway. Because a lot of them are married now and stuff, and as well. So, but if I see them, it's like hugs. Yeah, hey, how you doing? Yeah, it's good to see you. That type of thing. Yeah, of course you can. You see, again, right? So the context here is probably like, you dated someone for 3 months and then you broke up and now you're with someone else and then you see them again, right? Or you decide you break up and you're still friends and you're with someone else. Can you actually be friends with that? That's what they're asking about, not probably my situation there. And yes, you can absolutely be friends, but are you being honest with yourself? Is it really friendship that you want? Or is it something more? You're hoping for something more? Yeah. And a lot of people are just not honest with themselves.
Yeah, like you might hope that there's always, that second chance. Because like if your feelings haven't gone, they're not going to go if you're still going to be friends with them.
Yeah. A lot of people are just not honest with themselves. They actually are still there because they're holding on to hope of there being more again. Or there is also the other option as well. They're hovering around just to keep an eye on the person and, kind of like, no, okay, so who's after me? Like, who's, do you know what I mean? Like, so they're obviously, if you're someone who's, prone to that, be honest with yourself, be honest with one of your best friends. But yeah, the truth is you can absolutely be friends with an ex and there would be nothing there. But obviously the younger you are, the more option there probably is for you to actually think that there is something else there. There is another hidden agenda there.
Yeah. And so the next one, do you believe it's harder to start a new relationship / or keep a relationship that is in shambles?
Oh, if it's in shambles, you got to walk away. What's the point being there if it's in shambles, right? You've got to walk away. It's hard, right? A lot of people really struggle with that. The reason they don't want to break up is sometimes a thought of, I've got to start again. Yeah. And it is hard because you look at what people talk about in dating and relationships right now. Everyone's talking about, dating's a mess, dating's this, and that. It doesn't have to be, but this is what you'll hear. You won't hear the good stuff. You'll always hear the bad stuff. And you'll always hear people bitching about dating right now and how bad it is and all this kind of stuff. But it isn't actually. There's some really good people out there. So if you're in a relationship that's in shambles, I think this is where really good friends comes in handy. You need a good friend to say, what the hell are you doing? Get out of there now, because it's obviously not healthy for you. If you're fighting all the time, you're constantly in conflict, you're always crying, you're upset, you're always, you've got that feeling in the pit of your stomach that something's wrong, and you're in the wrong relationship. It shouldn't feel like that. It should feel quite relaxed. It should feel quite natural. It should feel harmonious the majority of the time. And there's always that Pareto's principle. 80% of the time it should be going good. 20% you can have fights, ups and downs. But if it's not 80% good, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. Like, I guess sometimes you just don't know when to walk away, right? Like it's quite hard to walk away to someone that you've really been attached to, right?
Yeah, of course. One of the hardest things for people to do. It is, it's very easy for me to say that. It's so easy to say that. But, it's when I was with someone years ago and they decided to walk away from me. And, at that point in time, around about 2005, I probably was at one of the heaviest I've ever been in my life. I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't looking after myself, wasn't taking care of myself. And looking back, she made the best decision ever. Yeah. Because what that did, that really kicked me into gear. I needed that as much as she needed that. And it changed everything. So sometimes the biggest gift you can give someone and yourself is walking away.
Yeah. No, I understand. And last one. Yeah. Would you let your girl go clubbing with her girlfriend?
I can tell these youngsters are just watching the Fresh and Fit, whatever podcast.
Oh my God. Why? I mean, why not, right? I mean, as long as you trust them.
It's not a big deal. If my wife said to me tomorrow, I want to go to the club with the girls, I'd be like, yeah, go for it, enjoy, have a good time, have a few drinks with me, go chat to some guys if you want. I don't mind. I'm not insecure. Do you know? Right, just taking this to a slightly different level for a second. My wife and I had this running joke, and we still say it now and again, right? My wife always said to me, right, in the beginning, she goes, listen, you can go out, you're more than welcome to go out there, find someone better than me. Go for it. In fact, go for it, honey. You go do it, because you're never going to find someone as good as me. And it wasn't her being arrogant. What I loved was just her self-confidence in herself. And I love that. That made me never want to go out, meet someone. But often what we do is we stifle other people. We're like, you know what? You're not allowed to go out. You're not allowed to can't do certain things. You can't do this, can't do that. No, come on, man. All that does, it makes them want to rebel. honey, you want to go out clubbing tomorrow night? Go for it. No, she's ever going to say that. We're a bit over the hill for that now, right? Approaching my 50s doesn't happen, right? But like she said to me tomorrow, I'm going to go, but I'm like, yeah, go for it. Have fun. Enjoy. Yeah. If a guy wants to flirt with you a little bit, don't worry about it. I know she would never do anything. I know that's just not in her nature. She would never do that in a billion years. So I've got nothing to worry about. Just as I spend all my time around single people, and much of which is single women. Not once has my wife ever come to me in an insecure fit or rage going, what the hell are you talking to this woman for? No, she is one of the most secure women I know. And that makes me love her even more. The fact that she knows 90% of the time, my coaching clientele are women. And I have to speak to all these beautiful single women all the time. And she does not give a crap. Doesn't bother her in the slightest. And it makes me love her even more and makes me be faithful to her even more. I imagine I decided to leave her, like just worst case scenario, I meet a really beautiful woman and I leave her. Imagine she was like really insecure, paranoid, you know, like really wanted to control me. I mean, like, oh my God, that would be the worst decision I could ever make. So it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But the more you try and control the other person and what they do, the more likely they're going to go do something that you don't want them to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I think if you trust them, then you know it'll all be fine.
Yeah, trust is a huge part of the relationship. And honestly, you know what? If you go the opposite way and you say to them, "Sure, go have a good time, enjoy yourself," just the only my own one caveat is this: just let me know you're safe. Yeah, just that's it. I just want to know you're safe. That's all. Like, you know, message me during the night. Just tell me that everything's good. You're okay. You and your girls are together. You're in the cab on the way home. Like, those kinds of things are important. I wouldn't obviously send her off and not like want any updates. I did break up with someone once because they did that. They went out and I didn't hear back from them until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock the next day. So I was like, nope, see you later. Yeah. So for that reason, I broke up. But it wasn't the fact she went out. It was the fact she didn't just let me know she was safe. That was it. That was my one boundary. And I said, no, you can't do that.
Okay, no, I understand. Yeah. And, you know, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Listen, I want to say thank you to you, man. Honestly, it's really good.
No
You've kind
worries,
of introduced me to this place and it's a pleasure to be
you're
asked.
welcome. Yeah. And, you know, it's been a good time. And I just want to ask, like, what would be just like one piece of dating advice you could give to someone if they were just something?
Oh my God, there's billions of bits. Which one do I pick?
Pick your poison.
Pick my poison. Honestly, it is this idea of we've got to learn to make an effort. And, you know, you can't just put out the random picture you put on your phone and put it on your dating profile and expect to get matches. It doesn't work like that. You're going to have to get a special picture taken. You're going to have to spend time on your profile. You're going to, and this goes for if you are planning to go to a dating app, you're going to actually have to prepare. Prepare like you're going for an interview, but never treat a date like one. You've got to still have the prep. If someone's going to ask you a story about your life, be prepared for it. Like as a businessman, do you think I ever go around not knowing how to pitch my business? No. What? That would be stupid. You call me a bad businessman if I did that, right? You wouldn't. So why would you ever do that with your personal life as well? Know what you're going to say. Know how you're going to say it. Practice in front of the mirror. Tell your stories. Learn your canned stories. Learn some jokes. Learn if you're the kind of person who gets nervous on a date, learn to quell those nerves, whether it's through some fun stories or jokes or whatever. Find a way to put yourself at ease as quickly as possible, and you will fare much better in the dating world as a whole. So, but prepare. Like anything else you would in life, why would dating and relationships be the exception? It shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. And yeah, that's a wrap, guys. Make sure you check, Connect Asian out, and make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
No worries.